Hey everybody, this is Brian with the Collector Report. Today I'm going to be reviewing Nova Terra Titan by Seth Ring, which is a self-published gamelit novel. It's book one in what is right now a four-book series. Not sure how many are planned. I've also read all four books, which has given me an interesting perspective as I went back and reread the first book so I could do this review for you. I really enjoyed this story. It's set many years in I can't remember the exact year. I don't know if it's mentioned, but it's set in the future where people can buy these game pods that allows them to go into this fully immersive virtual world. It's basically indistinguishable from this one. It's just full of all the normal fantasy characters, that you would expect from European fantasy, like goblins and elves and trolls, etc., etc. The story all revolves around a boy 16. His name is Xavier Lee, and one of the things I liked is there's this trope in Gamelit, right, where the main character is poor and he goes into these games, these virtual games, to make money, to raise real world money, either to improve their circumstances or to help a sick relative. But in this book, the main character, Xavier, he goes by Thorn, as his game avatar is named Thorn, is very wealthy. His parents have died. He's being raised by his aunt, and he's the majority shareholder in this big energy company. He's 8'9", and he has problems moving around. He's so big and so heavy that his skin can tear if he moves suddenly and stuff. So he's put in one of the specially modified pod that's going to heal him over the course of 2 years. And rather than put him into some sort of stasis, his aunt and the doctors are going to put him into this game, Nova Terra, where time is experienced 7 times faster than in the real world. So over the course of 2 years, he'll experience 14 years in the game. And that way he can kind of isn't just going to be his brain isn't going to be turned off. So a lot of this book is just set up, and I think the slow pacing may bother some people. Personally, I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed being introduced to all these characters that are going to play a really big part in what happens in the next 3 novels. And like I said, that's kind of where my perspective comes into it of having read the whole series. But this first book is basically just introducing you to all these different characters, introducing you to this world of Nova Terra. The main character, we'll call him Thorn, his real name is Xavier. Because he has had such a hard time moving, a lot of this novel is just him getting used to being able to move freely. Because of his physical strength and size, he's given a unique race. So he's kind of just exploring this game world that he doesn't know a ton about and learning how it works, understanding there's a really cool class system where the longer the name of your class is, the more powerful it is. That was really interesting. And it's just introducing the game world both to Thorn and to us as readers, but the slow pacing may bother some people. But when you get to the end, what comes after in the next 3 books is so good. And I feel like you might get that same feeling where you're going to get to the end of the book and there's so many cool little aspects of the game and the world introduced that you'll get to the end and be like, okay, now the real story, now the real fun is going to begin. And there's definitely some truth to that. But at the same time, like I said, I really enjoyed this first book. I didn't really have a problem with the pacing. There's a lot of fighting with the different creatures in the world. He meets people, goes dungeon diving and finishing these various quests and things. And then the very end, you get that kind of ultimate conflict at the end of the book with it segueing nicely into what's going to happen in the next book. It does end on somewhat of a cliffhanger, but because the next book is out, right, you don't really have to wait. You can just go right into it. And I would say if you get into this first book and aren't really liking it, I would encourage you to finish reading it and then go into book 2, because I feel like Seth Ring's abilities as an author have improved a lot, and you really get that in book 2, 3, and 4 that come out. Each book is a little better than the last, and that's pretty typical of self-published novels, right? You'll find something you like in book 1, and then every book kind of improves upon itself as the author's skills improve, or that's typically what I found. There's a lot of foreshadowing that happens in this book with events that are going to take place in the future. There's talk of unlockable races that new players can choose. There's new areas that open up because Nova Terra it's such a big world that players have only unlocked a small portion of it, including the main storyline that affects all players. And then there's also these little interlude scenes with the creator of the game kind of dropping hints of stuff that is going to happen in the future, which I really enjoyed. And this book, there's all these kind of subgenres, or I don't know if you really call them tropes, but subgenres of gamelit, like civilization building. You know, there's a player versus player conflict. There's dungeon diving and raids that players could go on. And what I like about this series is you don't get a full taste of that in book one, but in later books, you know, there is, you know, town and civilization building. They go on raids, and there's a lot of cool stuff that happens. And that, again, that's why I encourage people, you know, stick through book one, even if you think it's slow. And when you get to book two, things really start picking up. And I enjoyed all those different aspects. Each book kind of has a focus on a couple different things, and the story really starts picking up and getting more and more developed as you go through the series. So I'm going to try to do put out a review of book four out there. The author has a Patreon. I'll put a link in the comments below, and maybe see if between now and my review of book four, if I can contact the author and get some updates on maybe what's coming up in the future and what his plans are for the series, or maybe just do an interview. I don't know. We'll see what happens. See what I have time for. See what he has time for. But if you like science fiction, fantasy, you know, you like comics, subscribe to the channel, like the video. There's always new content coming out on a weekly basis, and I'll see you next time.